Okay, everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. To have a really cool bracelet showcase for you guys from the brand Forstner. A little bit about them. They were originally founded back in the 1920s as the Forstner Chain Corporation, and Forstner and its successor Jacoby Bender, or JB, produced some of the most iconic bracelets of the 20th century, such as the Comfit, chosen by astronauts and worn on the moon, the Clip, its Bond Clip style band paired with pilot watches, and the Flat Link, double branded with Omega, and many more. Forstner is now dedicated to reviving such classic vintage designs, and today we're going to focus on their Flat Link. Now, the Flat Link bracelet is one of the most recognizable Omega bracelets of all time, being among the first to be provided with the Speedmaster and Seamaster when they were originally released. So by popular demand, Forstner has now made a contemporary version of the Flat Link, keeping the proportions and style of the original, but making the bracelet overall more substantial. With this version, Forstner introduced its first milled clasp and a push button mechanism, maintaining the look of the original though, so still quite nice. The links are also thicker and longer, approximately 3 millimeters thick and 6.5 millimeters long versus the previous 2.5 millimeters of thinness and 5 millimeters long on the originals. Now, each of these bracelets go for $185 direct, and I have to say I'm giving you guys feedback from my own personal experience here, guys. I'm a huge fan of these bracelets. Now, in terms of the application shown, there's actually two different bracelets. They're both 20 millimeters, and they're both within that polished and brushed setup. You can opt for it in an all brushed layout as well, but on the Speedmaster, I'm using the post 2021 end link style, and on the Railmaster and Seamaster, I'm using the pre 2018 Seamaster end link style. So I'll definitely leave links down in the description, guys. I'm really loving these. I have them showcased on my own personal collection. As you guys can see here, this is really just my own version of the original Omega trilogy, but this is going to be a Neo Vintage trilogy, which I've taken some time to curate. Of course, instead of it reflecting the mid-century vibes of the original releases, these definitely are harkening back to those early 2000s, which were definitely very influential for me. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get these pieces in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, we should start with the watch that started it all for me. It's going to be this beautiful Neo Vintage Speedmaster Automatic Broad Arrow 3551.50, and of course, this look. It's fantastic, guys. I love the drape here. I love the taper. Those are two things you're not going to get on these original bracelets that these came with from the factory. So now you're getting the beautiful, of course, form factor, but you're also getting additional functionality, because you do have that nice female end link, which causes a much nicer slope or drape off of the wrist, which is going to be great for comfort and, sizability. It doesn't elongate the case anymore. You're also getting a more dramatic taper, and then you're getting micro adjustability without having to buy any extra end links or do any types of tricks or try to swap out the original clasp, which was quite bulky and really didn't offer much in the way of adjustability. You guys can see here, while it's not the most handsome, or most, high-tech clasp option, sorry, let's give it a quick little wipe there. You guys can see it still maintains that visual reference back to the original clasp, and I think that looks fantastic, and it just flows, and again, very iconic to the Omega brand. So here, I just think it's very cool to be able to have that. Now, it is going to be very highly polished. That's just this particular model, and kind of all of these models, and so that's one of the reasons why I chose these particular pieces to kind of curate my own Neo Vintage trilogy, because I just really like that kind of old school aesthetic. And again, this is just recording this in a dark room with off-camera lighting, so it's going to appear, you're going to see a lot of more of those dark reflections, but out in the real world, of course, this is going to be all reflecting off of your environment, and you're going to get a very cool, more, here you go, I get it a little bit more tilted, and you can see really lit up beautifully here, guys, and you're going to see a lot of that steel, and I think it looks fantastic, and it just has an aesthetic that I can appreciate. Now, moving on to the Seamaster, guys, there's so many choices when it comes to the Seamaster, and honestly, this actually came with one of the better bracelets. It was more of the Speedmaster style, but it still had that male end link, didn't offer any level of micro adjustment, which was unfortunate, and didn't even have any half links, right? So here, now you're getting that. Also, you're going to get a beautiful taper. In addition to that, screw pin construction. All of these watches originally came on pin and collar bracelets. So in terms of an upgrade, guys, I know it's aftermarket, but this is going to be really an upgrade on all accounts when it comes to the functionality and the wearability of your timepiece. Again, that beautiful drape thanks to the female end link, and then of course that nice taper, which not only aesthetically I think looks better, it'll also offer you a little bit more mobility as you are flexing your wrist, throughout the day. So very, very cool, guys. I love this. Of course, this particular layout, within this big triangle, Peter Blake era of Seamasters. These are gorgeous, but these will also fit, other models as well, whether you're thinking about some of the more Bond era and Bond style ones also. So definitely check that out. Links in the description. So very, very cool, guys. I just dig this one. The blue, the electric blue, it just, again, speaks to that era, that early 2000s space. And I just really like that. So, and then to finish off this beautiful trilogy here, guys, of course, this underappreciated gem, this neo vintage Railmaster. It's actually an Aqua Terra, wearing a Railmaster aesthetic, because it actually shares the same case, and even a similar case back where it even is signed Aqua Terra. So very cool. And you'll see here, which is where we actually step a little bit away from the rest of the other watches, because here you're actually going to get a coaxial movement. So that coaxial movement is going to help with wear and tear. It does have a slower beat rate. These are all chronometer rated, but man, there's something about this piece, especially with this bracelet. I think it flows beautifully. And of course, it's that case, which this shares the lyre lugs with these other models. And man, it just looks gorgeous. And that's one thing that can't be said for that the original vintage trilogy and the new modern reissues of the trilogy, is that they don't have these iconic lyre lugs because they predate that style. But man, I think this comes together really beautifully. This is actually the same bracelet as the one on my Seamaster, and it fits very, very nice. Now, in terms of it being a perfect, like a glove fit, not quite. Now, it's in static and on wrist, it's going to fit perfectly, but you can wiggle and jiggle if you really wanted to. But honestly, you can do that with the OEM end links and get similar gaps if you were to push on it and kind of push the angles. As long as you're using the OEM spring bars or wider, thicker spring bars, you should be good to go in terms of just making sure that everything stays butted up very nicely and feels very good. And man, look at this one. It just flows beautifully. And of course, again, the lyre lugs are a commonality here, but they just flow beautifully into that flat link style, and the end links. Oh man, it just drapes so beautifully, and I just think these look fantastic, guys. So again, you're getting the visual aesthetic boost, as well as you're going to be getting a boost in wearability, functionality, and then even tying to heritage. So having this aftermarket strap option isn't watering down the heritage. If anything, it's showing that you're a bit of an aficionado and you kind of understand the extra bit of history that goes into to pairing a flat link bracelet, you know, going to be era correct and, you know, unique to the actual brand of Omega when you're wearing one of these very cool timepieces. So with that said, let's actually get them on wrist and see how they wear. Okay guys, we'll start with that Speedmaster and check it out. That beautiful taper from 20 millimeters down to 16 millimeters. And then you do have that nice compact clasp at about 18.5 millimeters. And it is just gorgeous. Again, screw pin construction here, guys. So nice modern build quality, but you are getting that fantastic, you know, vintage aesthetic, which I think just ties in really, really beautifully. Of course, if I get my wrist a bit too close to the camera lens, guys, you're going to get some perspective distortion, and it's going to make the watch feel a lot bigger than it actually is. So what I like to do is keep my wrist nice and low, and then just tighten up the frame here so you guys can get still a detailed look, but just a bit of a truer aspect ratio as to how this may lay on your own wrist. Check that out. Ooh, that is absolutely stunning, guys. That broad arrow handset, nice standout, but still gives you all of those same vibes. Also, you're getting applied indices, guys. And of course, I'll probably come out with another video eventually where I kind of discuss more so about recreating, I should say recurating my own Neo Vintage trilogy and what went into the thought process here. But I just want to focus on these bracelets, the fit, the finish, the wear experience, guys. I think there's definitely a lot to like here, but let's get on to the next watch. All right, check that out. This is so vibrant and electric. Look how dynamic that blue dial is, playing off of the high polished surfaces. I dig it, and it definitely makes the watch, again, it feels it's a weird kind of double whammy because it feels more contemporary and updated, right? It feels less dated, but it also feels more classic at the same time. And I will say again, those older OEM options, you know, they did lack a bit in terms of functionality, but even in terms of aesthetic, I think you're still getting an upgrade here, guys. Check that out. This is probably going to be one of the more polarizing options just because I feel like it's so iconic, you know, to some of those other styles. It might throw some people off, but for me, this is one that I really get a kick out of wearing just because I feel like it really amplifies and just takes the whole wearing experience up a notch for this particular era of Seamaster Professional. Man, what a looker. But let's check out that Railmaster. Whew, guys, the simplicity here, the beauty within that simplicity is pretty unmatched. Check that out. It definitely gives you such a more classic aesthetic, while at the same time, again, offering you more functionality here. I mean, the bracelet that this came on, I think visually looked really great. It did have a male-end link, but the clasp system was definitely like left some, you know, to be desired in terms of wearability and functionality. Here you're getting something, again, that's going to be more robust, if not overly robust, for just a little three-hand watch, right? No date setup, just very clean. Oh man, this just speaks to me, guys. And look at the way that it flows, the way that it drapes. It just hugs the wrist so beautifully. And again, it all just fits. It all just comes together, and it fits the theme of these watches, you know, really, really well. So again, if you guys have Omega watches, especially of this ilk, of this era, I can't recommend these options more. I mean, these are pretty much the top option. There are other options out there. There's some great ones. I don't know, maybe you'll see me even try some of them out in the future, but my goodness, I'm not really in a hurry to when I have these options paired really so beautifully. So with that said, let's actually get these maybe laid out for some loom shots, the light transition, and closing thoughts just for fun. Okay, let's go ahead and add the lights here. Alright, as you guys can see, although this doesn't have to do with the bracelets, I just figured why not show you guys, of course, a little bit of how great the loom is for these pieces if you're considering any of them for future purchases. But one thing I always like to work in is a bit of a light transition, and that is going to transfer over into the bracelet review because it's nice to see what these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting, guys. And as you guys can see here, the luster on those high polished links look fantastic, as well as that nice satinized brushing. Really, really beautiful, guys. Ooh, these look absolutely stunning. You can see how vibrant that blue is coming off that dial. So if you have been on the fence about one of these models, you guys can see that the bracelets, you know, even under mixed lighting conditions, are just going to fit and flow really, really beautifully with these timepieces. Even in the dark, guys, they're still reflecting, and they just add so much character to these pieces, and I dig that a whole lot, guys. So let's do this. Closing thoughts, guys. Bottom line, these bracelets are a must-have for your modern and neo vintage Omega Speedmaster and Seamaster models. They offer historical and iconic Omega aesthetics, along with a wide range of functional micro adjustments to dial in the refinement beyond the OEM offerings of the time, which typically only featured half links at best, and sometimes not at all, as well as an easy-to-use single screw pin construction versus the previous pin and collar and modern dual screw layouts. You're getting full link articulation and even aids in overall comfort when you consider those aspects, all for under $200. And as much as I'd like to eventually see updates like a toolless micro adjusting clasp, you know, I'm sure it would add to the cost as well, which is currently a relative sweet spot versus something new from Omega in terms of those options, guys. So with that said, let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please do it like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.